Georgia's RICO Act. There are more than 40 offenses listed in the Georgia State RICO Act. Georgia's Little RICO Act are based on Federal RICO Acts. Predicate crimes under the RICO Act must and may be used to show a pattern of unlawful conduct and include the following: drug offenses, homicide, bodily injury, arson, burglary, forgery, theft, robbery, prostitution and pandering, distributing obscene materials, bribery, influencing witnesses, tampering with witnesses or victims, intimidation of a juror or court officer, perjury, tampering with evidence, commercial gambling, certain firearm offenses, illegally reproducing copyright material, various securities violations, certain credit and crimes, certain crimes involving titles, destroying or misrepresenting identification numbers, possessing automobile parts with missing identification features, various computer crimes, kidnapping, false imprisonment, terroristic threats, motor vehicle and aircraft hijacking, insurance fraud, deceptive commercial email, and residential mortgage fraud. Although the Georgia State RICO Act used language and definitions for the Federal RICO Act, the State RICO Act does not use federal code, which means the state handles the case instead of the federal government. The money in the state cases will flow through the state, and prisoners will be housed in state prisons with restitution fees and fines paid to the state of Georgia. Now, I want y'all to listen to this part. The state must prove every element of crime beyond a reasonable doubt for a person to be convicted. So that means the state is going to have to prove without a reasonable doubt each and every single crime of all 28 of the indicted YSL members. And that is what I guess you will call the definition of a Georgia or of a state RICO Act, the Georgia State RICO Act. Okay, let's get started.
I think Gunna and YSL are going to get out.
I think who?
Gunna and YSL are going to get out on their RICO charges.
Well, what I think is that we've
exaggerated what gangs are in Atlanta. I think we've exaggerated what RICO is in Atlanta.
I think that, we need to take a look at just going ahead and charging people based on
their lyrics and their musical aspirations and their First Amendment rights to express themselves.
We're not really indicting anybody for Quentin Tarantino films, are we? Right?
I agree.
We're not indicting anybody for
I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy down.
But all of a sudden, we've handpicked this music aspiration and this music of people
in the black and brown community, and it's completely fucking racist. That's what it is.
If you remember, Childish Gambino called on Thug of the Right, "This Is America," a song highlighted racism over policing, police brutality, the culture, school shootings, and the gun violence. The YSL RICO case in Georgia has shown us what we've known all along. The dirty deep South is not playing when it comes to gangs. In my last video drop, we looked at how Fani Willis is ready to foster a whole Fulton County jail full of RICO babies: Lucci, Thugger, Gunna, and Yak Gotti, Hoodrich Pablo Juan, who has been sitting the longest at 593 days. We're all denied bond. Well, Lucci did have a bond originally, which he violated, and not only did he violate it, but he was granted bond with a murder attached to his indictment. We all know the severity of the circumstances that surrounded the case of Lucci and his best friend. With YSL, a lot of the evidence is circumstantial, and some of the crimes listed in the indictment, some of these young men already paid their debt to society. So you telling me that if I already went and did my time, that you could still charge me within this RICO? That sounds like double jeopardy to me. Listen, if you didn't get a chance to catch the premiere of the last video drop, after this, hit the like button, then replay the YSL RICO case.
All I talk is crack, I can get the RICO. I put in the work and never, no nigga can never just say that I look.
Georgia RICO Act charges are piling up. Let's take a quick look at Gucci Mane's former artist, Hoodrich Pablo Juan, Sterling Penix Jr., booked on 10/21/20, busted under the Operation Cage Dubs.
The suspects reportedly operated across Georgia and throughout the U.S.
Dive into criminal activity in Upson, Fayette, and Spalding County areas. The gang task force, with the investigative support of local, state, and federal partners, initiated what truly has been an extensive, deep dive investigation. The investigation showed us that between May 2014 and September 2020, the men and women who have been indicted participated in a pattern of racketeering activity as part of a criminal enterprise known as the Rolling 20 Neighborhood Bloods. They operated across the state of Georgia, included but not limited to Upson, Fayette, Spalding, DeKalb, Gwinnett, Richmond, Greene, Telfair, and Washington counties, and through other parts of the United States as well. This criminal enterprise committed numerous crimes, included but not limited to drug trafficking, assaults, theft of money, personal property, conspiring to assault inmates in the state prison system, and recruiting gang members as well. The following agencies stood with us and assisted us throughout the course of this investigation: the Fayette County Sheriff's Office, the Fayetteville Police Department, the Georgia Department of Community Service, the Georgia Department of Corrections, the Georgia National Guard, their counter-drug unit, the Griffin Police Department, Homeland Security Investigations, Spalding.
So as you can see, there are several entities, several different departments, and several jurisdictions that was involved in the Hoodrich Pablo Juan investigation and his RICO charges. So they have already been doing this prior to Fani getting into office. They have been gearing up to hit the streets and actually take out the gangs and put RICO charges on all of them. So again, we just wanted to give you a quick rundown and bring it back to your memory that Georgia has been trying to do this prior to Lucci and prior to Young Thug and YSL. So what exactly did Hoodrich Pablo Juan do? According to some reports, it was gang, drug, and gun-related crimes. But as you can see on the screen, the court records show 2 RICO counts, which are not federal. These are under the Georgia RICO Act, GA code 16-4-1. But this was just one case number. Last but not least with Hoodrich Pablo Juan, before we move on, Hoodrich was picked up on some charges in March of 2022 when he was incarcerated, including giving inmates liquor, drugs, weapons, etc., without the consent of the warden. Now, come on. So if I could have asked the warden, this could have happened. I'm just saying. That's just what it sounds to me. And a few new Georgia RICO charges, 2 counts of criminal street gang activity, 16-15-4, and 1 count of tampering with evidence, 16-10-94. So, Mr. Hoodrich Pablo, he has some problems that's going on because he continues to get in trouble while being incarcerated. And that's never good. So you always want to stay out the way when you're already in the way. Now that you're back up to speed on Hoodrich Pablo Juan, before we get back to YSL, let's take a brief look at YFN Lucci. I mean, it's only right that I bring you up to speed on all the Georgia RICO babies so you can really get an understanding of what's going on in Georgia. Okay, let's get to that now.
New at 6, a massive gang indictment in Fulton County charged a dozen people with a racketeering conspiracy, including a famous musical artist, YFN Lucci.
Now, the indictment says that Lucci's an associate of the Bloods gang, and Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie had exclusive access to major players in the case.
There's been a huge spike in violent crime. The first thing we had to do was recognize that there is an absolute gang problem in this county, and that we were going to take a strong stance against that.
Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis says her team used a YouTube music video entitled Shine On, quote, which includes lyrics promoting criminal gang activity in a massive RICO or racketeering indictment to shine a light on the alleged gang associations of 2 of the performers in the video, music megastar YFN Lucci, real name Rayshawn Bennett, and Justin Ushry, aka Bloody J, 2 of a dozen defendants in the case, which involves a variety of crimes.
You took 2 of your top homicide people and gang expert and put them on this case?
Yes, sir.
For how long?
We've been working this case for approximately 6 months.
Of the national gang, criminal street gang Bloods, there's at least 4 subsets involved in this particular indictment and investigation.
Is YFN Lucci a member or an associate of any criminal street gang?
No, he's not a gang member. What he is an internationally recognized musical artist that is a triple platinum winner.
Lucci's lawyer, Drew Findling, added,
his First Amendment right to musically express himself is no different than the famous rock song, I Shot the Sheriff. It's not criminal activity.
Justin Ushry said by phone he's not involved in a gang or committing crimes. Quote, I make music.
And I agree with Mr. Findling, and I agree with Bloody J. yeah, you're an artist and you make music. But what happens is when you put the street element in your music and now they're trying to tie it to crimes that are committed when you guys are actually saying exactly what happened around the time that it happened, that's a problem. I'm just going to put that out there. And again, regardless of what Fani's angle is, like I said, she's not playing. She's trying to put every hip hop artist that has any ties to street gangs away for a very long time. Just check the stats. Okay, let's move on.
The DA's office says felony murder allegations against YFN Lucci and some others in the RICO case involve a homicide for which Lucci's already been released on bond, in which a passenger in a car he was driving during a drive-by shooting was killed by return fire.
We believe that it is part of a bigger picture.
He's not guilty of all charges.
DA Willis says even if it didn't include a music headliner or two, the RICO case would be headline-worthy for another reason.
The reason that it is so important that the GBI and the sheriff and the Atlanta Police Department is here is because we hope the community is getting that we have repaired all broken relationships and we are working together to deal with these issues.
Some people don't understand the depth in which the gangs have infiltrated, for lack of better words, our communities, and it's time for them to go. The violent crime as it relates to gang is significant.
Kara Convery, who told us she's the DA's lead gang prosecutor, says investigators also used social media posts. We pulled several off Instagram that seemed to match descriptions in the indictment to help build their gang case.
Here goes the pattern. Social media, getting on social media showing guns, getting on social media showing that you banging, getting around individuals that you don't know what they into, but you just want to take some pictures with your partner. I'm trying to warn you, young boys, this is what's going to happen. If you don't understand what's happening now, I mean, I'm giving you every single news article, every single news video I could find to prove it to you, because when I talk to y'all, I don't think it's resonating. So I'm going to show you through the news. I'm going to show you through facts. Man, it's a dirty game. Be careful out there. All right, let's move on.
The way to show who you are, who you're tied to, and what you're willing to do to maintain that position of power.
Now, the DA's office says most of the defendants were already in the Fulton County Jail on other charges. DA Willis says she brought in two of Georgia's top experts in this kind of case, Mike Carlson and John Floyd, who helped with this indictment and have others in the pipeline along with her gang unit.
And y'all think she playing. Okay. All right. Okay, now we're going to move back to the YSL case and take it to the courtroom. And I want to break some things down and also bring up a case that you guys might have forgot about. Now, again, I know a lot of you guys understand that everyone on YouTube has their own content. We're probably doing the same content. It's really where you go to get your content. I'm trying to give you some facts. I'm trying to shoot it to you straight. So I don't mind wherever you go to get your content. But at the same time, this is what I've been sitting on. I just got back monetized. I want to thank everybody that was down and stayed with me while going through that situation. Now we're going to hit it hard. So let's get to the YSL case again, transition back to that, and we're going to break some things down. All right, let's get to that now. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Audio Crack 22 on all platforms.
Judge, I will also say that we have
taken proffers from fellow gang members for Mr. Williams. Some are on this indictment, some are not.
They have stated uniformly that Mr. Williams is
dangerous. They are afraid of him, that if they cross him, he will kill them and their family. And they were very clear about that.
Okay, what is a proffer? A proffer is technically a written agreement. It is an agreement between a prosecutor and a defendant or a witness in which information about a crime is exchanged for the process that their information and words will not be used against them later in a court hearing. And that is why I stopped that clip right there, because that is very important. That means there are people giving statements within court and without, just like he said. And when you have 28 defendants, co-defendants, there's always an individual that's going to want to go home. Let's just be clear about that. Somebody's parents is going to be upset that their child is locked up or caught up in this. So I really wanted to just stop it so I can get the clear definition of what a proffer is for those who don't know. So now we all know what it is, and we know that it's a lot of people that are signed proffers or made proffers. And also, I want to bring up the part that it says it will not be held against them later in a court hearing. So they can tell them whatever the case may be. They can involve themselves in a crime also, and it will not be held against them. So that's how they get these guys, or shall I say how they used to get the old mob guys, because it was hard for them to get them to talk back then. So they used proffers so that they could not be brought up in court later on. And that's all they're doing in this RICO case here. Okay, let's move on.
Your Honor, when I said the other case, I want to also go back to that 22CP case.
A case that began in 2017. Monday night, Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug's attorney Brian Steele, told us something along the lines of, Mr. Williams committed no crime whatsoever. We have not been able to reach him about what we have learned now, but it appears Young Thug's legal problems
are not limited to the case in Fulton County that has made such big news this week.
I'm a real suicide. I got kids and everything. I don't need nobody saying you going to no jail about nothing.
It appears the Fulton County RICO conspiracy case that broke this week against music stars Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug, and Sergio Kitchens, a.k.a. Gunna, lawyers for both have suggested they're innocent, is not
the first time the pair has been linked in a criminal case, and that these images relate to a Dekalb County case dating back to 2017 in a vehicle stop by Brookhaven Police near Peachtree DeKalb Airport,
also involving a third suspect.
I'm supposed to perform with Jimmy Valley.
Documents indicate Williams, Kitchens, and the third suspect were indicted in DeKalb in 2018.
You got dope, you got money, you got guns. Trifecta, okay?
That Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug's charges included
possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute, possession of hydrocodone with intent to distribute, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, possession of amphetamine, possession of alprazolam, 2 counts of possession of codeine, and 1 count of possession of firearm during commission of a felony.
We found this photo in court records. There's a not guilty plea. Records indicate Kitchens was accused of a
window tint violation to which he pled guilty and received a fine and probation suspended upon full payment of fine and surcharges, and a possession of marijuana less than an ounce charge, which was null pros.
Okay, what is null process? Okay, what does it mean when a case is in null? Not to wish to prosecute. Null is a Latin phrase which directly translates to not to wish to prosecute. It is a legal notice to entry of a record that the prosecutor or plaintiff has decided to abandon the prosecution or lawsuit. So basically, whatever the situation is, they're throwing it out. They're not going to prosecute it. And that's what happened in the beginning of this Gunna and Thugger case. Before all the rest of this came about, this is what they did. They null processed the case. Okay, let's move on. Nah, hold on. We not finna move on. Hold on. We just not going to ignore what Thugger and them was riding from the airport with. Now, how stupid was that? Come on now, we got to call it all the way across the board. Like, there ain't no reason in the world that you $1 million person, superstar, I should say, that has performed in front of 300,000 people before, and you riding around in a Maybach with another superstar next to you. Although the gentleman in the back, whoever he is, shout out to him, he took the whole load, but now this is what they did in the beginning, though. They null process the case. Okay, let's move on.
The DeKalb DA's office has indicated that Kitchens in this case is indeed Gunna. A transcript suggests 3 officers then with Brookhaven Police testified in a hearing that one of them indicated he told another officer that when I made contact with the car that I smelled raw green marijuana coming from inside the car, and that I was going to remove all 3 passengers and conduct a probable cause search of the car. And that the third suspect, not Young Thug or Gunna, was
claiming everything I pulled out of the car.
A document indicates a DeKalb judge ruled, quote,
the prosecution failed to present credible evidence that this vehicle was violating the law when stopped, unquote, and that evidence including statements, firearms, and supposed drugs must be suppressed.
But a Georgia Court of Appeals opinion indicates the state
appealed and the appeals court reversed.
Okay, that's the reason why I wanted to give you guys the definition of what null process was, because they got it kicked out, but the state ended up appealing and picking it back up. They end up, the original thing was they end up illegally searching the vehicle, supposedly, and the state appealed and won, which the reason why now the case is being brought up in this indictment. You see what I'm saying? So they're now using this case. That's why I thought this was very important to play this this news clip, because this case is now being a major case on top of the things that Thug got caught with when they went in his home, the sawed-off shotgun, the illegal switches, and things of that nature. I think it was 7 weapons, a host of drugs, which doesn't make it look good with this clip that you just seen and all the drugs that he had here. It's like, you gotta, look, we can only fight as hard as we can. The individual must take accountability for what they out here doing. I'm sorry, they gotta look themselves in the mirror. And I mean, superstar or not, I mean, it didn't buy your way out of jail. So all I'm saying is, you got to make better decisions out there. I mean, when you know you got something and you know that you're a little above others, and it's not in a bad way, it's just that you got to take yourself out of a situation due to all of the examples of the other individuals before your time. I mean, most people get killed in their own city. That is a fact. So, I mean, if you can't take it, if you can't look at what happened before you and learn from it, then it kind of is on you. I say it like that. All right, let's move on.
Now, the DeKalb DA's office says the DeKalb case
against Young Thug is still pending, that the Court of Appeals ruling is critical to being able to move forward.
And now prosecutors are waiting for the DeKalb court to set the case on a calendar. We are able to find the public records to tell this story through the DeKalb Superior Court Clerk's office. Expect to hear more about this one, too.
I believe Magistrate Judge Robert Wolf on the 11th day of May, 2022, denied bond on the charges based on the arrest. And as it stands now,
It is no bond.
Now, what I understand from the order, and I'm going to provide this copy to the court in a second, it was denied for
flight risk and risk to commit additional felonies.
So now you can see that they brought that back up in court and they already put it on the docket and there is no bond for that. So I don't understand how they thought they were going to get bond for this case. I mean, Fani had already told you prior, she's not giving anyone a bond. So I just wanted to tie those two cases together to show you that that is a major part of this case also, regardless of what's going on within the indictment, because like I said, a lot of those indictment charges are weak in my opinion. But when you have a full case as what you just seen, on top of what the guns that Thug got caught with also, I mean, it's going to be a long road for him. Now I want to play a clip from another news clip from an individual by the name of Walter Murphy, aka DK. I want to play a clip with him and his lawyer as he turns himself in. I got a few questions and I heard a couple things that I think that you all need to hear also. So let's get to that clip now. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Audio Crack 22 on all platforms.
Exclusive tonight, another arrest of a man named in a sweeping racketeering conspiracy indictment that led to the arrest of rapper Young Thug. Only Channel 2 Action News talked to the rapper's former road manager before he surrendered, and he talked exclusively with Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie. Mark with us live in downtown Atlanta. So Mark, he told you he's
had no contact with Young Thug or the YSL in recent months.
Yeah, the indictment says or suggests
that YSL is a criminal street gang that claims affiliation with the National Bloods gang, and that Walter Murphy, along with Young Thug and a third person, were YSL founders.
The Fulton County DA's office says that's one reason Murphy needs to be held accountable, along with shootings and more. But now, hear from Walter Murphy. What are you about to do?
Right after this interview, I'm about to go on the courthouse and turn myself in.
His lawyer, Jacoby Hudson, says just as Walter Murphy carries a YSL tattoo on his forehead from his past has landed him in a high-profile racketeering conspiracy indictment, putting his future in jeopardy. The indictment he surrendered on at the Fulton County Courthouse.
I intend on proving everyone his innocence.
You're facing a tough challenge now. How are you going to get through that?
The same way I got through everything else, with God and my faith.
Murphy is charged along with more than 24 others in a sprawling indictment alleging a criminal street gang called YSL.
I would rather say
it was more like a record label or a family. Once upon a time, I was actually a road manager on that label.
An indictment that's attracted attention in part because of the gang and RICO conspiracy charges against famous rapper Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug.
Without question or hesitation, Mr. Williams committed no crime whatsoever.
Since you've been out of prison, have you had any contact with Young Thug or any other alleged members of YSL?
No.
Murphy is charged in one RICO conspiracy count, but as part of that charge, it alleges acts by Murphy, including an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon on or about September 11th, 2013, and attempted murder involving 4 different victims on or about April 12th, 2015. Hudson says
Murphy had been charged in those incidents years ago, and he pled guilty in what's known as an Alford plea, basically to reduce charges, and until his surrender, had been out on parole since early this year.
Okay, let's stop it right there. I want to explain to you guys what an Alford plea is. Okay, an Alford plea is a guilty plea in which a defendant maintains their innocence and does not admit to the criminal act they accused of, but admits that the prosecution has significant evidence to persuade a jury or judge to find the defendant guilty and thus agrees to be treated as guilty. Okay, as far as myself, I'm not really familiar with an Alford plea. I'm from California, so maybe in Georgia, I believe this is something like a deal. Like it's almost like they got you with everything. They caught you red-handed, but they're trying to give you another chance. So you don't want to plead guilty. So maybe later on you could seal your record or some sort to get a job later on in life. That's just me winging it. Get in the comments and let me know if you live in Georgia and you heard of an Alford plea and you could kind of explain it to us a little better. I just wanted to give you guys the definition and stop. So basically that's what's going on with DK. He ended up getting an Alford plea, which I believe the same thing happened with Pee Wee Roscoe, if I'm not mistaken. He also got an Alford plea and got some time knocked off. Well, it may not have been an Alford plea. I take that back. But he had something where he got some time knocked off. Now, it's a reason for, in my opinion, why DK has distanced himself from Young Thug and YSL. Because I can remember when DK was around in the beginning, it was like him and another individual named YSL Mondo. Those were the ones that really was around Thug from the beginning. And I remember him going to jail, but I don't know why when he got out that he distanced himself, if he knew something was going on or if he didn't. But there's some more things in this interview that I want you guys to listen to close. So let's get back to that now.
I spent 7 years in prison. While I was in prison, I stayed out the way. And I just got my GED, completed all my classes, completed the transition center. I transitioned back into the world. I got me a job at the transition center.
He paid his debt to society.
Hudson says Murphy had been working until last week.
The lawyer says in 2015, a prosecutor tried to get his client to cooperate against alleged YSL members, but he wasn't interested.
I did my time like a man.
Hudson says DA Fani Willis has mentored him since he was a young prosecutor.
She's my big sister and I love her a lot.
And he's going to plead Murphy's cause to her, but he knows he's fighting an uptick in crime. Hudson says DA Fani Willis has mentored him since he was a young prosecutor.
She's my big sister and I love her a lot.
And he's going to plead Murphy's cause to her, but he knows he's fighting an uptick in crime.
Whoa. Now, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me Miss Fani Willis is Mr. Hudson's mentor, huh? Okay. Make that make sense. I mean, for Mr. Murphy. Make it make sense for Mr. Murphy. It makes very clear, it's clear as day sense for Fani Willis and Mr. Hudson and the DA. But make it make sense for Mr. Murphy. That's all I want to let y'all. I just needed to stop it. I had to play it twice because this is what I'm saying. Like, we got to sit back and we can say, yeah, these guys are guilty of a lot of things. And some of these guys, like this man right here, like, that's the reason why I'm putting him on this, because he paid his debt to society. He distanced himself and he got smart about it. And look what happened. Reeled right back in. It can happen to anybody. You could think you going away from the gang, but in all actuality, you always a part of it. So you got to watch yourself. I just want you to understand, these people, they frequent each other. They come up in the ranks together. You have to understand, you got to watch all of that when you out here doing crime, I guess, if that's what you choose to do. I will hope you wouldn't want to do crime, but it's not the way to go because you railroaded all the way around. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, let's move on.
I just want the younger kids to know no matter what you did, whatever you think you're a part of, you're bigger than that, and you can overcome it.
Were you a founder of YSL?
No comment.
Now, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office says
the racketeering conspiracy count in the indictment does charge some suspects with individual acts they've had to answer for before, but that part of the purpose is to hold people responsible collectively for an alleged criminal organization that has wreaked havoc on the streets.
So you better watch the company you keep. To my final thoughts. According to case number 22-363, Hoodrich Pablo Juan was back in court on May 31st, 2022 for a bond and motion hearing. Bond has since been denied. Remember, in October 2022, HBJ will have put in nearly 2 years with no bond. Melly has sat for almost 3, awaiting trial set for July 6, 2022. Last weekend's defense team filed a motion to demand a speedy trial. How long will Pablo Rich? How long will Thugger? How long will Gunna? How long will Yak Gotti sit? What about Lucci, whose trial is coming this month? Who remembers Bloody J, indicted using lyrics in 2021 under the same indictment as YFN Lucci? Do you see a pattern? What do you think about the lyrics evidence in RICO cases in Georgia? We're seeing it in the Melly depositions. The state used the lyrics to deny bond in the YSL RICO case, referring to a song taken to trial, with the attorney commenting how he liked the lyric and laughing as he used it to deny freedom to fight charges from outside of confinement. If the lyric likable on the record in court, how is it dangerous? Are freedoms the right to fair, speedy trial and laughing matter to the legal system? What about social media? All the cases in Georgia and Florida show investigators using Instagram as evidence. Hot new artists on probation posting guns with prop hashtags aren't fooling the FBI nor Georgia's GBI. Where's your management? If you're an artist and your manager is too busy jump-starting his own failed rap career off another jailed artist's coattails, it's time to cut ties and find new management. Maybe it's time for artists to consider elevating to another level. Treat the deal like you got a promotion or graduated from college. The school of hard knocks. Elevate. You know what I'm saying? I mean, instead of walking that walk, just talk the talk. They will still listen. Trust me, if you hot and you consistent, somebody gonna find you. And use every social media platform to your advantage. I mean, just flood your music and flood your talent, whatever your talent may be, to them social medias and push them. You know what I'm saying? And believe in yourself. And trust me, somebody gonna find you. Until next time.
All I talk is crack, I can get the Rick out.
I put in the work and never, no nigga can never just say that I love it.